this time we're going to be talking about one of those late mid to end of the 80s movies that I don't remember from when we were kids so much until I was like older, and it's one of those things where you start seeing the box like popping up at the video rental place a little bit every once in a while, and then it's one of those movies that started getting some, I don't know if a cult following is the actual right word for it, but it's one of those movies that a lot of people have started talking about, you know, as the 2000s have progressed. And we're talking about the 1986, I don't even know if I would necessarily call it a horror movie, maybe sci-fi movie, I guess maybe a little comedy in there, but we're talking about Chopping Mall.
I very, very specifically remember the cover art for this movie, which is, interestingly enough, slightly different than what they're using now for, I think, the Blu-ray and the DVD case. Because the original, there's two versions of this picture, and I guess like the one they're using now was the original, and then the VHS one was like what came afterwards. But it's the picture of the robotic hand holding the bag with the body parts in it, and part of the bag's ripped open towards the bottom, and you see like a head. Which I remember seeing that box art, you know, going to the mom and pop video stores as a kid, and like, what is that about? And I had no idea. I had no idea what the story was or anything, and I hadn't seen it, never saw it actually until this past week. But I do remember back, like, I guess probably when I was in junior high or high school, they were playing this movie on one of the local TV stations, and it was called Killbots instead of Chopping Mall. And I didn't realize it, but yeah, this is one of those films that actually has two titles. Kind of like I Spit on Your Grave is also known as Day of the Woman. There's a few other examples I can't think of off the top of my head, but
yeah, I think the one that we're used to when we were kids was probably more of like that, whatever, like the demonic hand on the VHS cover, which or zombified hand or whatever you want to call it, which is probably a little bit misleading. But the thing with this movie coming out in 1986, the feel that I get from this movie nowadays is, you know, this is one of those movies that, you know, Hollywood had put out kind of in an attempt to get away from the slashers of the day and all of those special occasion movies that were out there, you know, so the Graduation Days and, you know, Friday the 13th and you know, all, you know, My Bloody Valentine and all, you know, everything, you know, that was out there at that time. And we'd actually covered Deadly Friend a couple of years ago, I guess, or a year. No, I guess it was 2 years ago now. Damn.
yeah, it was.
But, you know, which kind of has that same, a little bit of the same feel to this one, you know, where you have, you're trying to make a horror movie, but it's, at the same time, you're trying to feed off of what's popular at the time, because this is 1986, so this was right around the time that, like, weird science and all this other stuff is popping up. You know, you have computers, which are becoming insanely popular, and all this other stuff. You're like, oh, we got to feed off of that. And so, like you had said, when this movie first came out, it was called Killbots, and then actually it didn't have any success with that, so then they kind of rebranded it as Chopping Mall. And then supposedly it got a little bit of success after that. And then, like a lot of the movies of the 80s, you know, once it hit cable and VHS and stuff, and, you know, it had that kind of cool artwork on the VHS stores and stuff, and people sort of like, oh, that looks like a cool movie. Yeah, check that out. You know, or it's on at, you know, whatever, 10 o'clock on USA, and people are like, well, it's, you know, whatever Friday night horrors, I gotta watch this movie and see what this is all about. I have a hard time classifying this as a horror movie.
Yeah, this is basically the horror version of Short Circuit.
That's a good way to put it, yep.
this film, I would say, I know one of the phrases we throw around a lot is beer and popcorn film. This is probably one of the best examples I've seen in a long time of a beer and popcorn film. It's cheesy as hell. It's a movie that you don't really need to focus on because it's cheesy as hell. It's got lots of silly gore, a little bit of boobies, and it's filmed in a shopping mall. Yeah, this is the movie that this one, you put this in with like Tourist Trap or something and do a double feature of cheesy horror films from the 70s and 80s. I mean, this would definitely fall right into that category.
You might as well throw in Deadly Friend, and
yeah, perfect.
I mean,
Deadly Friend would fit in perfectly. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
I think Deadly Friend a little bit is a bit of more of a superior film. But yeah, actually, real close to this. Yeah,
exactly.
So many ways.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, when you got to that point in the 80s, so this is 86, we're already on our third A Nightmare on Elm Street movie at this point. We're actually kind of sitting in hiatus on the Halloween movies at 86. Jason's been coming back every year, but you've had all these other knockoff slasher movies, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre has come back and everything else. And this was before Freddy really, I think, started taking over the pop culture world like he did because see, this was 86. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 had come out, so I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 was out quite yet at this point. Freddy hadn't quite taken over yet, but I think Hollywood was kind of like, yeah, you know what? Let's take a break from these slashers and let's jump into this whole, this new wave techno thing that's going on, and let's have some, industrial type horror movies out there, because you had all of these. Like you had said, Short Circuit and all these other movies that had come out, and going off of that, and so Hollywood is kind of like, hey, let's turn that into a horror movie. So I think that's a perfect example of that. It's Johnny Five, but he's demonic, and he's gonna shoot which he wasn't even demonic. I mean, this horror movie was just these robots were just programmed to kill. So it's kind of like I don't know. To me, it was almost kind of like you had said, like a ripoff of Short Circuit crossed with RoboCop is the feel I got from it.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't even know where to go with this movie. It's like kind of like there's so many things. Like, was it entertaining? Kind of. It was kind of entertaining to see, like, I don't know, people from the 80s being people from the 80s. The monsters, the robots, weren't all that interesting, I don't think. And they were kind of, the one thing I didn't like about it was how, gosh, where do you go with this? Like, okay, so basically the gist of the film is this security company creates these security droids to patrol the mall during the off hours so that, if there's any criminals, and, they'll apprehend them. But again, I don't know if they'd apprehend them or they'd just kill them. Like, cause like these things were designed to like shoot lasers at people. And it just was like, what? And even the premise was kind of strange. Like, I mean, if somebody was like wandering around the mall after hours and like, you don't like just go and kill that person. And it seemed like that was the premise. I know the robots malfunction. The storyline is, lightning hits the building and the robots malfunction, just like, again, like we said, Short Circuit. But then the robots are kind of like Johnny Five from Short Circuit, where they have these big like tank type tractor bottoms, and there's no way that they could really follow anybody and like find somebody. I mean, you could be running around a mall hidden behind things, and these things wouldn't be able to find you. So that was kind of strange too. And the robots themselves were just kind of sort of pathetic, I guess. Wasn't the most interesting design. And again, I'm like one of those guys who likes, if you like, I like my monsters and my villains and like my slashers to be interesting to look at. And I don't know, these robots were just kind of hokey in my opinion. But again, it's sort of a double-sided coin because that also makes it the fun beer and popcorn movie that we just said it was. So definitely not a movie to take seriously.
You're not going to be buying a Park Plaza Mall security droid mask anytime soon?
No, I am not. Yeah, no props from this one. And another thing I was really disappointed in, well, not disappointed, but just kind of like the music and that opening scene of the mall, the woman's walking with the tray and, and you see the kids like running around and you see all the people in the mall, people in the arcade. And it just was like, it seemed like it was filmed. There was something off about that. Did you catch that? Like, it seemed like they didn't quite film it correctly, or it was like the music didn't fit well with that opening scene. Would you agree with that, or do you know what I'm talking? It just felt weird, or like something you'd watch and kind of like have like an awkward feel while you're watching it with somebody. Like, oh, this is kind of.
The feeling that I got from this movie when I watched the most recent time was, well, this might be a little bit of a stretch, and I apologize for that if it is, but let's say the movie WALL-E were to become a reality, and everybody on the planet becomes so grotesque that they don't even walk anymore, and everybody is just rolling around on some spaceship, because we deserted the planet 2,000 years ago, and everybody's just, lounging around in this spaceship on whatever their, like, hydro beds or whatever the hell it is, and somebody finds this old tape of, this is how 1986 was. It's kind of how this movie felt. It's like, it's weird because like they made this movie in 1986, but it's like one of those things like when you watch it now, you're like, well, that's how somebody from like 2017 would say life in 1986 was.
Right.
It's just so weird.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies to where, and like we've already kind of beaten this in the ground a little bit on this episode. They're trying to draw off some of the success of some of the other genres out there. So, you had movies like Short Circuit and stuff, but also trying to feed into some of the success of horror. And, they put this movie out there as Killbots, like, oh, it's a sci-fi adventure movie. Hell, nobody's going to see that. Okay, it's Chopping Mall. And so 5 people go to see it and they're like, but Chopping Mall, there was nobody like killed in that movie. I mean, there was some people shot with lasers by these weird robot things. What the hell is going on? And then, and so then it gets pushed out to video stores, and then all of it, like a lot of the shitty 80s movies that are out there, like there's a bunch of people that are like, oh, that movie's great. And then all of a sudden has this weird cult following,
Yeah, this film for me, this shows you the impact that marketing can have. Like the box art of this film is ingrained in my brain. I remember always seeing this box art and being intrigued by it. Like, whoa, this is Chopping Mall. This sounds crazy. And like, and like that, like I said, the robot hand holding the bag full of body parts and ears and, and then a head in there. It just was like, that's creepy. That's really, I had no idea what the movie was about. The weirdest thing about this whole thing is this movie started out called Killbots. So like this to me seems like a film like they actually came up with this idea and they were gonna like do just about robots in a mall. To me, it's like the name Chopping Mall is like the selling point with it. It's like, what's that mean? Chopping something, there's a killer in the mall or something of that nature. And then the box art with the bag and all that just like really entices you. But the reality is they didn't even have that idea until way later, until they released it as Killbots. So like they were actually, and that's how generic and B level the thinking was in this movie. They were just going to call it Killbots. And somebody had an idea. Let's do robots security that goes haywire and goes off killing people. And this film's a standard 80s, of course, there's a group of teenagers who end up spending spending the night in the mall, and they work there and they're hiding out in there, and they're the ones who we watch throughout this film, and pretty bad acting, pretty terrible acting to be honest with you, but that's I guess to be expected.
I know that the two of us have some movies that we like from the olden days that we enjoy to watch. Like, for example, I was saying, did I say this episode or the last episode? I watched Night of the Comet. That's one of those movies that I just remember from being a kid. When, it was on HBO, and I remember watching it. And it's just one of those movies I watch every so often, and I just sit back and like, oh, this is a great movie. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie at all. It's really not. The lead actress is gorgeous in the movie. The storyline is mediocre at best, but it's one of those things, like, okay, everybody's turned to dust, and you run out in the street and everybody's turned to dust, and you're like, oh, weird, here's a shoe and there's a bunch of sand in it. That's weird. And then you just run off. But I watch it and I love it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have that same sort of feeling with Chopping Mall. They're like, oh, I love Chopping Mall. It reminds me of when I was a kid, and I watch it and it's great. And these Johnny Five robots are shooting people and they're killing them, which is kind of part of the plot of Short Circuit, because Johnny Five was kind of the giant robot, or the giant, was it giant robot? Is that right? Where giant. That's the kind of the story. Like, he got struck by lightning, and then he's like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to kill people, and that's right. but I'm not going to do that. But he's actually supposed to, and there's versions of him out there that are killing people.
Yeah, it's yeah, I think you're right though. I think this is a film. I never saw this as a kid, but I was always intrigued by the cover art, and I could imagine being at the video store and seeing the cover. I'm like, oh, this has got to be great, and then taking it home being very disappointed. Like, oh wow, this wasn't very good at all. I think you're right though. We all have these films, that we remember from way back when, that we kind of romanticize and have that nostalgia for. You and I talked about Critters not too long ago. I think that falls in the line where, back when we were kids, it was like, wow, Critters, that was like one of the best movies ever made. And still today, if we watched it, you'd know, wow, maybe it's not the best movie ever made, but it's kind of fun to watch. But this one, I think you're right. It just sort of falls along the lines of like, it wasn't very good, and I don't really have any nostalgia towards it, so I don't know that I'd recommend it to anybody.
I think the two of us could probably speak to this very well, and the two of us, I think, do this on a regular basis, and that is, if you want to test the durability of some of these older horror movies, this came out in 1986. We were 10 years old. Whatever. That's fine. By the time that the two of us were 15, they were making shit horror movies again. But anyway, the two of us have a tendency to drag our own children into things and force them to watch stuff, sometimes against their will. And I think you could really get the sense of what is a good horror movie and what's not a good horror movie, by doing that. For example, both of us took our kids to the most recent It movie. Yeah. But there's been times in the past where I've like, hey, let's watch this movie. Outside of the original Halloween, for the most part, most of the movies you get like, oh, that was pretty good, or that was weird, or that was boring. Like, if I was to show this movie to either one of my children, they wouldn't make it 20 minutes into the movie before they were, not only like playing on their phone, but just got up and completely left the room.
Yeah.
And honestly, the last time I watched this movie, I almost got up and left the room. It's just not a good movie.
No, it's not. I watched it in two parts, so I got a little break from it and then came back to it. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a dud. It really is. I guess Yeah, it's the dud. Like you get this one, and it would be like a good double feature beer and popcorn movie if you had a better one. Like put Ghoulies 2 with it or something. Watch this one first, prime the pumps with this one, and then toss in Ghoulies 2, which is another terrible movie but fun, a little bit more fun than this one. And I think you'd have a good evening. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and say cover art is a thumbs up. Film itself is a thumbs down.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly on that one.
And I'm so thankful that we didn't find this one at Flashback and pick it up on DVD or Blu-ray for $20.
Oh man!
Which this would be one of those films I could imagine us grabbing.
Oh yeah. So
yeah, because this would go. This would be a good double feature with like The Deadly Spawn or something like that.
Yep, for sure. So, all right, guys. So we are at the end. Well, actually, this episode will come out the very 1st of October. So we're gearing up for Halloween. So this is our season. So be prepared. And if you guys have any, I actually have an idea for a Thanksgiving movie this year. And I think I actually have an idea for a Christmas movie that I think we talked about a year ago, which is kind of weird.
Oh, cool.
But if you guys have any suggestions out there for holiday movies now that we are in the midst of the holiday season.
Oh, good grief.
Please let us know. Just hit us up on our Facebook page. Go to facebook.com and search for Horror Heads. I know a lot of you out there are fans of us. But, let us know if you have any holiday horror movie suggestions. And that would be, really anything, so Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I can't imagine there's any New Year's horror movies up there. There's got to be.
Oh, there is. There's like something New Year's Evil.
No, so okay, so there's one from 1978. But there's got to be some Easter ones out there and stuff. There's got to be some 4th of July ones. Come on.
Oh, we worked on that one, didn't we? We tried to figure that one out.
Did we? I don't know.
Yeah,
we do so
we
much.
got, I think, was Jaws.
Jaws is a 4th of July one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. So, hit us up and let us know what you think. Let us know how we're doing. The two of us, get on here and ramble on. And it's kind of funny. We had a conversation earlier tonight that I wasn't recording during, and then like 3/4 of the way through, I'm like, God damn it, I should have been recording that.
It was one of the best. One of our best episodes that will never see the light of day.
All right, guys. We'll smell you later.
Later.